Hi, this is RJ, and I am going to share to you some technical details that I usually do whenever I am doing design layouts. So, this will be good for those who want to design their own content, like posters, brochures, and stuff, be it print material or a digital design. So, let's go. So the first thing that we will do is to set up our canvas and take note that doing designs for print materials is different from digital designs. In print materials, we have to set our color mode in using CMYK, while in digital designs, we have to use RGB mode. So let's try setting up for a print material first. So let's click new, and then you will see a pop-up window here, and then you have to change the color mode to CMYK, because normally publishing house printers, they use CMYK ink colors. So if you're going to design for a print material, it is better if the source will be in CMYK mode so that the colors will be almost the same as the actual printed output. And then for the size of the canvas, normally I prefer using the actual size, not unless it's going to be very big, like a billboard. But for brochures, say for example, a 9 by 12 inches brochure, so I will definitely use inches. So I will just write the actual size and then click OK. Also for the resolution, for print materials, maybe around 100 to 200 pixels per inch will be okay. But to be safe, you can use 200. 300, I think it's too much because it will probably give your machine a hard time processing all those colors, all those edges. So here is the right setup for a print material using a CMYK mode. And you will see on the tab here, it's in CMYK 8-bit color mode. So there are different options when it comes to the bit size. We have 8 to 1, 8, 16, and 32. This pertains to the color shades. 8-bit has lesser color shades than 16 bits. So if you are going to design something that is very colorful, or if you think you will have an output that has plenty of color shades, it would probably be best if you will use 16-bit. But if you're going to use solid colors, maybe 8 bits will be okay. And so for digital designs, we will create a new canvas. And here, we have to set the color mode to RGB. What else? The resolution, maybe 200 to 300 is okay. If you put more pixels per inch, it will give you more details. Remember that Photoshop is a raster type graphics application software, and it uses tiny squares. So more squares, it will give you more details when you create edges or angles or different things. If you have a more powerful computer, maybe you can go beyond 300, but my personal preference is between 200 to 300. And then for the size, I always use pixels. I do not use an actual size because there is no actual size in a digital design. It all depends on the screen of a device. And normally, the most convenient size, I think, is 1280 by 720. I think most devices use this type of ratio in devices. So when you use this size and you maximize an image, I think it will fill the screen the most. So using this, I'll just click OK. Now, this one is in landscape mode. If you want to flip it over and convert it into a portrait mode, you can click image rotation, and then you can just move it clockwise or even counterclockwise. Now going back to the CMYK for print materials, let me just go back here. I want to talk about bleeding. If you are not familiar with bleeding, this is a method that uses margins as a buffer for space. And usually bleeding is around, correct me if I'm wrong, it's around 1/8 of an inch. So for example, you will have a text. Normally when we design, especially using simple applications like Word or PowerPoint, we tend to put our texts or images right beside the border. But what really happens in the printing houses is that there are chances that the paper might not load correctly along the printer. So sometimes the text, they get cutted away. And that is the purpose of bleeding. So if you have your ruler on the top portion, you can see that this is 1 inch. Let me double check if this is in inches. Oh, it's in centimeters. So I'll just change this to inches. There. So I have 1 inch here. So I will get 1/8 of that. And that will be my bleeding. So this is half. This is 1/4. So this will be 1/8. So did you see what I just did there? From the ruler, I clicked and pulled, and it will have, or it will give you an internal margin ruler. So around 2 points, that will be our bleeding size. So you can put your text here, or just to be safe, move it more inside. But for digital designs, bleeding is not really that important. You know, these designs for social media will not be printed anyway. So bleeding is useless. But of course, it is worth noting that when doing digital designs, there must be sort of spaces as well. Okay, so next, let's talk about the design itself. Let me just close this one. Let's go back to the RGB canvas, and let me just adjust this one. So if you want to adjust your canvas size, you click on image and then canvas size, and let me double check. It's 1280 720. I'll make it in landscape mode. Okay. So what should we do here? Backgrounds. So as a designer, part of our job is to create captivating designs. And we can start by doing backgrounds. Normally, I use gradients or solid backgrounds. As a designer, I actually prefer to do a minimalist design, so less colors. I usually stick to a color blend, a color pattern. But let me show you how to add simple backgrounds. So we can use the rectangle tool. It's actually the easiest for me. And we'll just fill this up with the rectangle tool. And then we can control the color of the border and the insides of that rectangle. Here at the top, we can change this one to blank, and then the fill color using whatever color we like. Let's say, for example, light blue. Now, anytime we can change the color by looking at the layer or even using the same tool and changing it here. But for me, I usually look at the layer and double click the thumbnail to pull up the color picker. So you can change that to any color that you want. But if you want to be a bit creative with the colors, we can add gradients to it. We can right click this one and use blending options, and then we can add gradient overlay. So as you can see, when I take this gradient overlay, the color of the canvas, or should I say the color of the rectangle, changed from a solid color into a gradient color, black and white. Now I will change the colors of the gradient by selecting this one, and I can now choose two different colors. Let's try blue and black. No, not black, dark blue. There. Now, as you can see, from dark to light, you can control the angle of the linear gradient. You can reverse the colors. You can change the style from linear, let's make it radial, and then you can control the scale. So let's use this one. And whenever I am in a hurry, this is my go-to move. I usually use a gradient as a background. Maybe we can add certain things like, I don't know, let's try using again this rectangle. Let's add that one. For the header, I don't know, we can add a custom shape like a rectangle, not custom, sorry, polygon, with 3 sides. You can change the points of a rectangle using the select tool. So if you click on the select tool, you will see the different points. So by selecting a point, you can change its orientation. Now, let me show you if I want to be fancy. Again, using the gradient tool, we can add a mask to any object. This one is the mask. Make sure that the layer is selected, add a mask. And then there is this new white thing that will pop beside the thumbnail. So while that is selected, you can see that it is selected. It has markers around it. We can use the gradient tool. It's located inside the bucket tool. So let's use this one. And we can change the look of an object by dragging and clicking, and you will see that there will be a transition from a solid into the background. So you can control that. And remember, this is inside the layer mask. So it can give you an effect of like fading. Something to that effect. So it's really a great way to, you know, add some fanciness to your object. We can also add different effects to objects or images. Let me add a text here. And let me change the text size. Using the blending options, you can have, or you can use different effects. Like you can bevel, you can add a stroke or a shadow. So there are plenty of uses for these blending options. Using blending options, you can also add different approaches, like, I don't know, outer glow. You can change the size of it here. So it's really up to you as the designer on how will you employ these techniques to be more creative. I want to talk about layers now. As you can see on our layers panel, there are plenty of different layers, and it's a bit confusing. So what I usually do is I group layers together. Here is an icon, a folder icon. So this folder is a container. So you can group layers together. Like, for example, I want this rectangle, the white rectangle, to be part of the group. So I'll just drag it towards the folder, so it will be part of the group. I will also add this triangle into the group. So now they are grouped together. I will hide it. Both of them will be hidden. So that will actually give you more control of your layers. Let me create another group, and I will put everything else inside the second group. So I have two groups. The first one, I consider that, let's say, my header. So I will rename this as my header. And then the second one will be my body. And then there is also linking. It's similar to grouping, but not using folders. So you just highlight the different layers that you want to group together, and then right click, and then where is it? Link layers. So you will see that there is a chain. It means that these layers are linked. If you move it, everything will move with the layer that you have selected. And that is the purpose of linking. We can also duplicate layers. It's a great technique if you want to be fast in doing something and there are certain designs that are repeating. Let's say this rectangle. Let's say it's part of the background and it will repeat over and over again. Instead of creating and recreating rectangles, we can just duplicate it. Right click, duplicate layer, just click OK, and then a new layer will be created with the rectangle. You can duplicate again. You can also duplicate to a new one, to a new file, or if there are other tabs open, you can duplicate and copy to a different open tab. Normally, I do this, the copying from one tab to another, whenever I reuse designs. If there is one picture from a certain file that I need to use in the current design that I'm doing, I'll just open that file and then duplicate it to the one that I am creating. And then, what else? We can also use the shapes as our text paths. So let's say you have a circle here. Let me just move this one. We can use this circle as a path to our text. So let me use the text tool, and then let me just zoom in a bit. So you have a circle, and then I will add a text along the curve or the arc of the circle. So using the text tool, you see that cursor, that letter I cursor, if I move it along the edges of the curve, you will notice that there will be a small arcing line across the eye or across the cursor. It means that you will be able to type along the curve. So let me just click. You can actually remove the circle because the text will be on a separate layer, not inside the circle. So this is the circle. I can remove that one. I can hide it. I can delete it, but the text will remain. It's also a great way to be creative with the texts that we use or the text that we need to place. And we can even create custom paths. Let me use a circle as an example. But this time around, I will play with the points of the circle using the select tool. The select tool will let you change the edges of shapes, like that one. So as you can see, the curve changed, and it became a different kind of shape. Using that shape, I will add a text and remove. So there you go. And that is using a shape as our text path. It's very, very messy now. Let me just delete most of it. Even this one, let me delete this. I want to talk about highlighting a text. Of course, it is already common sense that if you have a dark background, the text color must be light, and the other way around. But if there are cases, or if you need the text to be of the same shade as the background, There are a couple of ways to highlight the text. Let me show you an example. Let's change the color to something bluish, something like that. So it's hard to see. So one good way is using, again, a shape. Let me just play with this. A shape, and then you put it behind the text. Or if it's too much, you can add maybe an ink, a paintbrush ink. Let me create a new layer and then put it behind the text. You can use the brush tool by pressing B, and then let me use the color yellow. You can put a brush behind the color, or sorry, behind the text. If it's too strong, you can change its opacity, located here. So you can tone it down, and at least the background color will not be too strong. There are a couple of ways too, like using the blending options. We can use the drop shadow, or we can use stroke. You can check this one yourself, play with it. Since we are talking about texts, let me show you a little trick here. If you will have lots of lines in one text box, you can control the leading. If I'm not mistaken, that's what is called leading, the space between two lines. Select everything, and then you look for the window character, and you will see here the icon. Using that, you can change the space between two lines, or even 3, 4 different lines. It's a neat trick. Let me just change the color to white. It's hard to see. And another trick I usually do is changing the space between characters. This one. I usually do this for designs with 2 words, and I want to make the words of the same width. Let's try one. Example, and then I will add the word simple. So let's change the leading there, and then for the upper word, I want to change the tracking. Almost. So it's a nice way, it's a neat way to make 2 sides or 2 words of the same width. What else? Merging layers. If you have too many designs, and of course you know that these designs must go together, like let me just show you. I will place an image. Of course, I will use my face. Let's say, for example, I will add some things to my face, like All right, I'll create a new layer and I want to add a blush on my face. So from this new layer, I will select a reddish hue and I will add a, oh, too much. Is it a good size? Still too big. There. So I will add a blush there. Too strong. Change the opacity down. There we go. So I've added a blush to my face, and then another one. I want my lips to be redder, or yeah, redder. Now I have three different layers. This one is for the lips. And then this one is for the blush. And then the main file, which is my face. So if I know that in the end they will be together, it would probably be best if you merge them. But use this, use with discretion. If you merge files, or sorry, if you merge layers, you cannot unmerge them. So I know that this will be the final look that I want. I will just highlight the three layers, right click, and then I will merge. So it will now become part of one layer. But like I've said, once you merge layers, you cannot unmerge them. And what else? Color corrections. There are different ways in correcting colors using this option, image and then adjustment. My go-to place is changing the hue or saturation. So if I want it redder, I will just add color. Or if I want it toned down, I'll lessen the saturation. Or probably you can change the hue. I want to be more yellow, so I will slide the hue bar, and then I will add, or I will saturate a bit. I can also control how light the image or how dark the image would be. Another thing that I usually use is this one, curves. Now the curves, it's a bit tricky. You can control colors using this graph by dragging the arc. Hey, why it's not changing? There we go. You can control how the image would look like with a slide. So if you want to check this, try it yourself, you explore. But this one, I usually use it with images that are in grayscale. I want the image to be a bit dark for my grayscale image. This is one great way in controlling how dark colors will be portrayed. And then finally, to give you a parting activity, I want to talk about tracing because designing is actually a skill that takes a lot of practice. And I myself, I learned it on my own. And one of my earlier hobbies is to trace faces or objects. So what I usually do is, let me get rid of all these unnecessary elements. So what I usually do is I trace faces of people and I convert them like an anime. I mean, I'm not really good at it, but it keeps me focused and it actually helped me exploring different tools and different techniques. Like for example, um, so this is my base. Wait, let me just delete the folder. It's all gone. Undo. So I have my base here, which is my face. I will add a new layer for it and I will create a face for me. There. And then I will add my eyes or nose or mouth. So I am guessing you know what I am talking about right now. So I will add another layer and I will draft a place for my eyes. Let me use the color black. And then a place for my nose. And my lips. So like I've said, it doesn't have to be perfect. But the general idea is you trace and then you color. So I have on this layer the different traces. From that one, I will add another layer and I will give color to the different places. Like on the lips, so using a new layer, I will add color red. And then for the eyes, of course, you can use whatever color you want. But the idea here is for you to practice using your hands or using your hands for drawing, using the mouse for drawing, and applying different tools to achieve a goal, plus exploring stuff in Photoshop. This is actually where I learned how to add different shades into my work, like on the lips. We know one color, it's very one-dimensional. So we can add something like, which layer is it? This one. We can add simple shadows for it. Even on the face. Wait, is this really the face? No, sorry. It's this one. Yeah. I'll just rasterize and burn it. So there we go. You can use this different techniques to enhance your own skills. So I hope you learned something from me. I hope to see you again next time. Goodbye.